Right, so third one on, we've got Harley and Lauren. I'm just laughing at the size of this little glass cup next to Harley. It just looks a bit strange, to kind of say the least. But basically, yeah. How long have we been working together now? I don't even. September. Yeah. So basically, in essence, I think the best place to start with this one for you two, it's a bit different to other people, is one. What was the reason for needing to get help with your business as a starting point? And then I'll come in and go, what was fucking wrong with your business and what we did, basically.
Yeah. Try not to be too hard.
Yeah, so that's the starting. Because the thing is, nothing wrong with the business, but you'll see in a minute the importance of it, yeah?
Well, we are both good coaches. And that's what we've focused on a hell of a lot, is being good coaches. So the business side of things, we weren't as great at or as invested into. I think we'd put all of our time and effort into actually our clients rather than all the stuff that actually makes it a business, rather than just being a coach and client relationship. So I think that was probably the main thing.
And the fact that the stuff that like we have offlaid, I was trying to do everything. So the bits that we were doing, it was like I was then trying to juggle too many things and spin too many plates.
Well, what you guys did in a week would probably took us
about
months. So it was a case of outsourcing to do the things that we weren't able to do as efficiently as we wanted. So I think that was probably the main thing.
A bit of like our coaching like journey, we was doing it separately, and then we obviously merged. And then when we merged, it was sort of like, okay, now we just work together. There was no like established company that really meant anything. It was just like, oh well, now we just do it under the same thing instead.
It was creating the brand more, like, so to speak, opposed to being Harley and Lauren.
Yeah, that's basically what my main point behind this. So obviously they come together under Team Alpha, but Team Alpha had only just recently been kind of put together. So you've got to basically allow for the narrative for people to understand what the actual brand is. You've then also got the fact of both of them are pretty much kind of transitioning out of kind of coaching lifestyle clients to more kind of physique and performance. And this is a lot of stuff that people like don't really kind of seem to understand. Like if your coaching offer and your niche is an absolute byproduct for everything that we build on our end, because like once I'm like, right, who we actually aiming as content, who you want us to be working with, because that designs your social media content, that designs your email nurturing, that designs your paid media, your lead funnels, absolutely everything known to man. So like when we kind of took them both on, like they're in a bit of a middle ground. It was like you still had lifestyle, they still do now, but even for example, I remember like but this year you were like, oh, should we be working with lifestyle clients, or should we not? And it's like you can't have that kind of attitude, because the moment that these two especially in the last few weeks, have really solidified, right, Harley's prep, Lauren's prep, physique female clients, physique male clients, even if they are a lifestyle client not stepping on stage, the goal and outcome for them is still exactly the same. The moment that they've come in and done that, it's like a solidified level of confidence around what we've built from a company offer. And that's what you've got to kind of come in and do. You've got to have authority with what you actually want, rather than you thinking, oh, it's lifestyle clients might come to the table easy. Do you want to be working with lifestyle clients long term? Can you get results from them? Or for example, especially with these two right now, they're both literally doing a prep at the same time, aligned now with nurturing community platforms like systems and follow-ups and nurturing pathways, which we've obviously built around this kind of physique-based kind of offer. This is where they're going to absolutely go into a silly level trajectory. But for example, when you look back before, like how did you, when you like, for example, before when you would not like solidified everything that you do and who you might be focusing on, like how did you feel? Were you a bit all over the place? Did you feel a bit in limbo?
I think it's very easy to feel out of place in the industry at the moment, because there is a lot of niches. Like there's a lot of trends that you can follow, and I think that's why it's very, very important to understand who your niche is. And we sort of had to question ourselves really about who we enjoy, who we want to help, and like the direction that we want to go. And when we thought about it, it was very, very easy, but to obviously know the route to take to actually attract those kind of clients was probably the bit that we were struggling with, because I think me and you are quite guilty of not actually sharing our own experiences. Like,
I was going to say
my last prep,
no one knew it was.
I was under the radar. I was under the radar, and I'll give you an example. We were here December 2021. We came back September, and everyone was like, "What the fuck has happened to you?" They're like, where have you been and what have you been doing? Because I've literally like mutated, and I
think,
was like, fuck. That was like sort of the point where I was like, okay, I've missed out on that period.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So now going forwards, I want to make sure that I am documenting things, because people are invested. As much as you think that people don't care, they really, really do.
And I also think last year was such a weird year of like moving house, moving countries, wanting to develop the business but like not really knowing where to go. So I feel like we sort of lost ourselves as individuals. So the content we was putting out was more client based, and everyone was like, oh yeah, your client results are great, but I don't actually know who you are.
Yeah.
So I think we had to have a bit of self-discovery to then start putting our personality out there. And I think now that we are doing that more, the people that are coming to us, like I get on the phone and I'm like, it's like I've known them for like 10 years because they're the same kind of person as I am now. So it's nice, and also it's nice to know that like the team, like they all meet up and go and train together and do whatever. I know that if any of them met each other, they would get on because they're all like me.
Yeah.
So
the community is very, very good, isn't it? Within the team, like especially with us being in Dubai, like we thought that might have affected business, but like complete opposite, to be honest, because the community within the UK is sort of building itself, and they're connecting with each other. They all support each other, so it's a massive, massive thing, isn't it? Like, well, you've created a list of the shows that everyone's doing, put their names down for each show.
Have we done it now?
Done a team calendar.
One of the tasks done.
And then literally sent it out to all the clients, broadcast it, and like these are who's competing when. Feel free to come along, buy your tickets, and support each other.
It's cute.
Which is
that's good. It's good on that side. But it's like they've just mentioned there, like last year they moved to a different country, and I think it's really important to understand, like, so you list that, moved to a different country, they've obviously come together within a brand, they've changed out a lifestyle coaching to move into more physique base. Harley put himself in an hole for God knows how long when he could have actually got quite a lot of clients from it. But in reality, you've got so much stuff going on, and I think it's really important to understand that if you're I'll speak from a coaching standpoint, obviously, right? They might not have obviously scaled like what they are doing right now and what they're definitely about to do now with this prep, and that's absolutely fine, because you've got to go with what is right. Because as an example, like, I'm not doing the coach convention this year, and it was really hard decision to make, and it's one me and Ben really struggle to make. But for example, Ben's business is scaling at a stupid level. I'm building 3D games with him and Rambir and Andre, and it's like, for me, I'm like, right, I've got CP education, what's kind of blowing up, coach consultant is mad anyway, and I've not even released a marketing campaign. So it's like, if I had a choice to decide, do I want to do that or do I want to focus on what I've got now, it's obviously in my priority to do that. And sometimes you've got to kind of just understand that you've got to move at your own pace. Because if you guys had kind of come in last year and started pushing all that pressure into you, best way I could describe it is, if you'd invested into what we do while you're moving to Dubai, that'd have been absolutely ridiculous, because you wouldn't have been able to process it. And it's all about, for me, it's about changing the narrative. And I say this all the time, change the narrative. You say, for example, with these guys now, they've had to change the narrative with them being based in Dubai and actually having a cemented place in Dubai, because a lot of people move over here and feel like they shouldn't really have a place. Right? And then, for example, they've got the brand, which has taken a bit of time for people to understand what Team Alpha is, and we've built content strategies and funnels and nurturing around the concept of what Alpha is. So now the narrative is changing from a company perspective. And then you've got to think, right, so the bigger picture thinking of Team Alpha is in place, right? The company is in place. Then it comes down to the change in the narrative of you. And it's something that I think that these two in particular, which you wouldn't think it, looking at them both and looking at the socials, are probably one of my clients who will doubt themselves on social media more than kind of others.
100%. I think, like, confidence, isn't it? And I think that was probably the biggest thing, is like self-confidence and just actually backing ourselves.
I think as well, we was trying to be, everything had to be perfect, but that we was losing our personality. But then because we was stressing about being perfect, it weren't getting done. Almost. I think that was the worst thing. You just like that we were struggling with.
Sit on it for too long, and then you'd be like, "Shit, that's gone."
Yeah, it's like it's paralysis by analysis, isn't it?
Like when you made us do them videos. And we had to do it about 5 times.
That was completely out of our comfort zone. I was like, oh my God.
The different, like, say for example, they're not even that bad, them ones. So like email nurturing, we basically build out these journeys so it's high value, because at the end of the day, if someone's coming in as a warm lead where they're directly inquiring to you or downloading a bit of lead generation, we want them to get to know the coaches. We want to hear the faces, like see them, feel their energy. And obviously they'd never done anything like that before. And I was like, I remember when they sent me these videos, and I was like, is that video 8 seconds long? was like, what did you do? Fucking cough on it? I was like, it was just like,
I just get it over and done with.
yeah. I was like, but
yeah.
obviously they're realizing that now. But it's all new skills because they've never done that before. And
Yeah.
it's like, and it's the same as anything. Like the more you practice it, the better. So for example, me with podcasting now, I couldn't care who I'm speaking to. I'm like, I can just flow. I can talk. First one I did, I was probably really, really anxious about it.
Yeah.
Or for example, where these two guys are now, like particularly in 2023, it's really heavily kind of changed. A big difference to the content strategy, and obviously they've got a really good videographer covering even more soon, so they know that's going to boot off alongside the prep. But the first time you come in, you're like, right, oh, should I be posting about that or shouldn't I be posting about that? But if you're not, someone else is going to fucking do it.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's happened a lot, to be honest, because I'll have stuff that I want to talk about, like, right, I'll save it for when I've got a videographer or something like that, and then next thing you know, someone's posted the same video, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And they've said it better than I would have said it as well. So
Yeah,
it's like-
but that's just self-doubt.
I know it
because
is. I know it is.
It doesn't matter because
Yeah.
the person that's recorded that video, that's not the audience, is it?
Yeah, remember it's going to your audience.
It's the audience. It doesn't matter. But I think that we obviously the industry is saturated, so it's like, oh, what makes you different? But
I think
if your personality is
yeah.
shining, obviously the knowledge is knowledge. If everyone knows the same education, that's
I think
the standard,
having the office at home now has been a massive help, hasn't it? Because it just means if we've got an idea, I'll just go and film it there and then. Whereas before we were a bit.
you save it and then it'll come to it, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know what I'm saying now. And I was like, all right,
so
well,
literally as soon as I've got an idea now,
you've
I'll
repeated it
record
to me about 10 times before.
And the community as well, because to be honest, the training side of things is more my thing, isn't it? Like going into the training, the nutrition, those side of things. I could talk about them all day long, but I can't fit it into a reel that's a minute and a half. So having the community where I can chat shit,
Break stuff down.
and literally
Chat
just
shit.
just go into as much
it's it,
detail.
isn't it?
Do you know what I mean? Go into as much detail. I haven't got to worry about a time limit, because half the time when I'm doing a reel, I'll sit there and I'll watch the time and I'm like, fuck. Then I'll start talking quicker and then I'll fuck up.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So what you know is a form of lead generation, right? So obviously we build lead magnets with a coach consultant, we put them onto funnels, add them onto email marketing, do all that malarkey, right? But at the end of the day, it's only one little tiny resource. And yeah, when it comes to lead gen, you've got to have high frequency because people like different stuff and you can chop and change when you use it. But obviously we prefer community because it means that one, you can bank all of those resources in one place, all of those videos, you can do updates on your check-ins, you can do anything you want. And instead of it just becoming a little tiny PDF, you've got, like as Harley just said, an absolute bank of what you know and also your personality.
Yeah.
Right? Because unless you're a fucking PhD researcher, people aren't following you because they just want to listen to what you've got to say on a written caption. They want to see your physique, your video, and generally, like, for example, someone who's so unorthodox, Tristan Barnes, right? If you watch his fucking social media content, he's...
Talks into like a fish flip.
Oh my God, he's got like this thing called Fabio the Fish, and Fabio the Fish, and I was like, I remember when I first took him, I thought, not sure how this is gonna go. And I was like, and I got basically gone into a call with him, and I was like listening to him talking stuff like that, and I was like, this guy's gonna be a fucking superstar. I was like, he's gonna be a superstar because he's got such a unique personality to his content, right? And for example with Harley, one of his biggest selling points is how he looks. Yeah. Right, so why the fuck you didn't post about that before? I've got no idea. I was knocking Mark off. But for example, like with Harley, I'm like, right, with your physique and your prep, right, we're not only going to be doing updates onto social media, but we're going to be doing more exclusive in-depth stuff with his, like I said, boring life out of people on his platform, like with dissertations on every check-in. Right? But the thing is, right, if let's just say you got 100,000 followers, let's just say 100 people out of that, right, like that, like what you've got to say. So that's what, like 1% of them people or something like that. If 1% of people are engaged by what Harley's got to say and join that space, that's 100 people. If you do 100 times 250, that's a shitload of money.
Yeah.
Right. So this is what I'm trying to say is like your journey and what you both do in your personalities. So for example, like especially with Lauren recently, like, she's a lot more relaxed when it comes to socials. And especially in 2023, after she had to do company-based videos, and it's like, once you do company-based videos, do you know what worst ones is where you do customer journey videos, where it's like, hey, I've not spoke to you for a while, how are you doing? You're like, fuck. Honestly, it's absolutely horrific. But emails are alright, but she obviously jumped in at deep and did them. So when it comes to the social media, you're like, well, I'm just fucking chatting to my mates, it's just social media.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you might come in and overthink it. But for example, when you look back to 6 months ago to now, so when you were both like a bit in limbo, moving around, What's the difference now with your content associated with who you both wanting to work with?
Well, I know personally, like, I had a weird year personally last year. Like, I weren't competing, I felt a bit shit in myself, so I think that reflected in content, even though, like, I feel like now I would just post it anyway. So I think I was just
tough,
focusing too much on client work, but then everyone was like, yeah, they're great, but I don't actually know who you are. My page could have been the team page, because there was literally nothing about me on there. So for me, it's now getting myself out there a little bit more, I think. And now, like, I've obviously not competed for however many years. I feel like people are messaging me and they're quite excited for it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, people love it.
So even just putting myself out there, putting my own personality out there, because I feel like my personality can be a bit overwhelming. But I feel like the only people, like, if they don't like it, then they're not going to be a client of mine anyway. So I may as well just be myself.
I think for me, it's solidifying myself as a good bodybuilder, but also solidifying myself as a good coach for the niche that I want. So I think talking through my clients' journeys, talking through my own journey is probably the biggest thing, because that's the story is what people want to hear. Because I think a lot of the people that I coach are probably transitioning from, like, a serious lifestyle client into a first-time competitor, and that's probably a lot of people are probably in that position now. So the fact that I'm documenting that and showing that that's who I'm predominantly coaching is drawing that attraction, and I think that's where I pretty much excel, and probably where I enjoy, or who I enjoy coaching the most. Like, top end coaches, you get someone who can tick every single box every single day of the week, fantastic, anyone can get them on stage. I know, like, there's a lot more to it than that, but, like, if you've got someone who's actually transitioned from a lifestyle client into a first time competitor, that's a lot more exciting, I think.
Yeah, it's like, this is how easy it is for Harley, like, and how, like, you've got to make your fitness journey around your stuff. You look at Harley 12 months ago, right? Then you look at Harley now, you put two pictures together and you go, I've just done a post on how I look like this now. That's how easy lead generation is, like that. Because you're not just coming in and creating a random resource. It's like, right, I've built this based around my own experiences. So for example, I did paid media videos yesterday as an example. On one of the videos, I was like, basically, the methods that I use to build a 6-7 figure business is what I use with clients now, because it is. So for example, like, for me, going from 6 figures to 7 figures, that when I was looking, thinking, right, what am I doing differently to what I was doing before? And I was like, oh, it's not just fucking me anymore.
Yeah.
It's all this staff, right? Sound, I'm gonna use all this staff on everyone's businesses because it works, right? It's the same as kind of you with what you're doing with your physique, right? My training methods, my nutrition, my mindset approach, my recovery approaches, my everything is why I look like what I do right now. And if you look like what you do and it's associated with your target client and your content, your lead generation, then you create this thing called culture, right? And that's one thing, like, Team Alpha are moving into it now. You can't build culture in the first year of doing anything straight. Well, in some companies and stuff you can, don't get me wrong, but for example, like them last year, there was too much going on. The last 6 weeks have solidified the brand, which I want to talk about in a second and put you both on spot. Then I want to, and obviously solidified both of their individual offers separately, but aligned under kind of Team Alpha. They've got the CRM systems, nurturing the communities, driving. Now it's genuinely like, this is the fun stuff. It's techniques, it's consistency, it's thinking, right, come in and right, what can we do next? Like, I had, like, for example, Joe Ballinger last week, and we've done loads for him in space for 4 weeks and ripped it apart. He was like, right, what's next? And I went, nothing. He went, what do you mean nothing? I said, I want you to use what you've got right now for at least 2-3 weeks, where I don't put anything else on your plate, where your main priority is focusing on that lead generation, building community, outreach, content, consistency, KPIs. Right, once you get to that point there, sweet, have we got into, are things moving well? Right, they might have slowed down. Right, what can we do now? What can we do now?
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest thing, because it's very easy to compare yourself to somebody else that's doing very, very well. But you need to understand that there's a process and there's a journey that you need to be on yourself as a brand or as an individual before you get to there. Because the thing is, if you accelerate too quick, then you're going to skip all that in between, and then that's when holes will start to appear, and that's when things come unstuck. So I think we were quite self-aware, weren't we, that we needed to do things in order. Although we wanted to be here, we didn't want to skip this in between and half-arse it. We wanted to make sure that everything was done properly and that the business was set up, and that's exactly what we've done with you guys now. And, like, like you say, it was similar with what you've done with Joe for us, because you said to us, right,
Yeah,
focus on content.
I didn't feel like I literally turned around.
Yeah.
Like, what you're doing, I was like, I'm not trying to be boring. I just want you to keep it simple right now and use what you've got, because like movements from where these guys are right now, you've obviously got one referral model kind of in place, and the thing is with Harley, like I'll openly say when I took them on, I was like, in my opinion, you don't need a team referral yet, mate, because you're a high performance coach and you could probably double your own client base, pay yourself, build up a real specific niche around competitive stuff, and then build a referral out from that side. Yeah. So like sometimes my job is weird because I have to almost tell people stuff they don't want to hear, just for the kind of the good of it. Like it don't matter how big the client is for me, I'll just tell them straight. I remember when I took Rough Diesel on, and I basically said you need to basically restructure your whole team and hire 2 new coaches. Yeah. And then now, so I signed up 40 people last week alone. I've not done that for God knows how long. But it's like when you come in and look at where you are right now, there's always something more. Like pulling together kind of community days, pulling together client days, looking at like a schedule, right? Building out the skills to a team referral model. Right, then you're looking at kind of the roles and responsibilities. So, for example, Ben at the moment, we're building out actual internal management within his team, so he can actually step out of the business a little bit more. So there's always a phase of kind of progression, but you're now at that tipping point where like, I could genuinely put my house mortgages on it that in the next 12 weeks going into the preps and stuff, when you're going there, this is where you're going to see the biggest response that you've ever had, because you're so clear in what you both want now. You've got the right type of management systems, you've got the right type of company automations, all that fucking fancy stuff, but it really comes down to you two just having absolute total clarity on what you're doing. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, just being a little bit more content with ourselves now, just generally being in a better mood when you wake up in the morning makes a hell of a difference.
Yeah, I think we was drowning at one point. We was drowning, waking up in the morning, I thought, not up to today, me. But we've been getting up, getting out, so like that routine for us has been helpful. So we're in a positive mind space moving forward.
I'm
obviously I'm obsessed with if I'd love someone to come in for a real day in the life with me on
I wouldn't.
I would even speak to Rob the other day but when I'm in day in the life in the UK, I even think about efficiency to the point of how I can close my boot and get dogs in a different way to shave 10 seconds off and shit like that. Like you're talking,
that's
extreme.
That sounds like me, though. Yeah.
No, honestly, like it's weird like how my head works. I'm like from like 5 o'clock in the morning until I'm there. I'm like, how can I maximize every kind of bit of time? And that's for me. Like for example, with these guys, I could relate to them a lot. Like when they moved to Dubai, the only reason I've not moved to Dubai is one because of my dogs, and I've got the CP education office, and we're probably gonna be having kids next year as well. But for me, moving to Dubai, and when Ben was like, no, you'd love it, and I'd be like, I don't know if I would. I'd have to have a proper office set up, a real structure and real routine, and it wouldn't be a 2-minute job for me to find that out, which is exactly what I'm saying, that sometimes you can't give yourself a hard time in situations like that.
Yeah. There's no way that our service would have been appalling if we'd have tried to grow the business whilst we was moving, because it was just not going to work. So we need to make sure that everyone that we did have was getting what they needed, and everyone was like getting the right things.
It's tough because you're almost
you're
almost having to you're having to put things on hold. Not like you're not regressing, but you're putting things on hold, making sure that you're still upkeeping that service while you've got all this stuff going on in the background, which is just it's life, it's standard, it's a decision that we've made, but you have to make sure that you're still offering and
flying the dogs there is not cool.
But again, this is all stuff that we didn't document.
Stacey would be fucking having a panic attack.
No, I would have a meltdown every day. I'm crying at radios.
Yeah, if you just like on the plane. I think for me with that situation, if they were on the plane and I knew they were on the plane with me, I'd be alright. But it's when I get to the other end and I don't get them back.
No, it's worse because we had bad turbulence, and I was like, the dog's gonna be fuming underneath us.
They were together though.
They were together, fine, but we basically had them like 2 hours after we landed.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It's very, very efficient. And they were on the same flight as us.
Yeah, so we literally dropped them off at the airport at 5 p.m. Our flight was at 9 p.m. We obviously got on the flight.
I'm very interested in this. Where do you take them through into check it as a special bit?
Well, we did it through a company.
So you drop them off with the company does everything for you. They do all the paperwork, etc. Take him to the airport, and then
you get a little tracker so you can see when they've been put on the plane, taken off the plane.
Yeah, we've got a tracker on ours anyway.
Yeah, so you can take them off the plane, and then they have to go to a separate building to see a vet and make sure they're obviously okay. And then that just gave us time to literally get our stuff, get to the apartment, and then they were there. Literally, we landed at 7:30, 8.
We did a
and
night
we had them
flight
at
as well.
10.
So the dogs, they sleep during the night. So it's like 7-hour flight. So they're literally away from you for what, 10, 12 hours max. 12 hours at the absolute max.
And we had 2 together.
But they have human contact in that time anyway. So as long as they got human contact, get some water.
So you can't use dogs as an excuse now.
What would you say is some realistic advice for potential, like, obviously a lot of my audience is going to be like high performance coaches. What would you say is a little bit of realistic advice on people wanting to move to Dubai?
I'd come and visit here for a period of time first. We came over, we were avoiding lockdown. Like, that's the bottom line of it. The gyms were open, we wanted to come over here. We had a holiday cancelled, didn't we? So I was like, right, we'll go to Dubai for a month. We ended up being here for 6 months, set the business up, and I was like, okay, we want to be there. Went back to the UK, did competitions or whatever else, but we'd spent a period of time here before. If you come over here for 2 weeks, it can seem all fancy and whatever else, but you've not actually experienced what it's like to live here. So you want to make sure that I'd probably say come over, get an Airbnb for a month, suss it all out, and work out whether you want to be here. Because obviously it's got perks, but as you found out, and me and Carl, nothing is ever straightforward in Dubai.
Nothing is straightforward.
The fact that it's grown so quickly in such a short space of time, simple tasks can be like a fucking challenge.
And I also,
an absolute challenge.
I also found, because we did 6 months in an Airbnb, and then we went back and we came back to Dubai again, and I was living in an Airbnb, and I just thought, it's not mine though. Like, I felt really weird.
Yeah.
So we went back, sold all of our stuff, and was like, right, we're gonna actually do the full move, because otherwise you feel like, oh, I'm going back home in 6 months, like to the UK in 6 months. So it's always like,
you're unsettled. There's an end date,
an expiry date.
Yeah, that's a fucking topic in itself. That's
a podcast on its own.
Yeah, that really is. It's that all-in mentality. Do you know what? I'm a lot better this. Do you know what? I'm probably, my all-in mentality is a lot better this year from how much stress I experienced last year. Like, and I taught, like, don't get me wrong, I can't complain last year. Incredible success, but Jesus Christ, it.
Oh, fucking me and you have said that we're going to get a tattoo with 21 on it, because that was a fucking year. That was a year I was like, we're going to have to remember that year for years to come, because I think Jesus.
When we moved here, I just said we needed to commit to a year. Obviously, we brought our dogs here. We got an unfurnished apartment, so everything there was ours. We've bought a car, so I was like, right, well, we're here now. Like, that's it.
It's coming together, innit?
And I feel alright. I feel better about it.
Yeah, I'm going to be here every 12 weeks now, so you're not going to get fucking bored of me anyway. But, that's fine with me. Like, I'm a big routine person, and I think it'd be hard for me. I won't be able to do it logistically, but I think if it were a few years ago, I probably kind of would have. But this is like, I don't know why I've just jumped onto this point. Like, you've got this all-in mentality, and you've got the concept of what Team Alpha really is. So where did Team Alpha come from as a starting point?
You can take the lead on this one.
I think
feel like it's your thing.
I was like, what do we stand for? And you're Alpha, aren't you? You're an Alpha female. I'd like to think that I'm an Alpha male. And that was literally where it came from.
Not physically.
Me? I am.
And I thought,
Lauren a big shit out of both of us.
Yeah.
Lauren had like Stacey and hammer me. Honestly. Yeah, she's right. No commit. She's right hard. Like, everyone looks Stacey, a little nice cute girl.
It's the short ones that are fiery ones.
Honestly, mate, she used to be like a fucking world champion kickboxer or something. She's a freak.
You think you are, but
I would. Yeah, I would.
But no, that was literally it. I think we were Max and Eagle at the time, weren't we? And we were planning.
Yeah, we liked their logo.
I looked at the Max and Eagle logo, and I was like, it's a shield. What is one half a wing?
One half's like
an angel wing.
No, one half's like, you know, like a Roman soldier with like the
shield.
Armour.
Oh yeah.
And the other half is a female, and I was like, oh, that's cute. Like, I like that. So we just sort of went from there.
Like, that looks pretty cool. I was like, I can't exactly rob their logo.
We could have, but anyway.
We did it in. Was it Greek?
Yeah, originally it was just Greek.
We did it in Greek because
I was like, well, no one's going to know what it means anyway. So we had to then just change it to like the full logo.
And the reason we did it in Greek is because we went to Mykonos, didn't we?
Yeah. Anyway, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, that's beside the point.
But I feel like everything that we do, it's like, we've obviously spoke about like the pillars that our brand stands for. So like authority, action, things like that. And I think that we own our shit if it's good or bad. We like do take action if we need, like, I feel like that just is the embodiment of what we are as people. But yeah, you're always like, I am Alpha. I'm
Yeah.
like, right, okay.
Well, I think that's the way we want to be. That's the way we want our clients to be, because I think it's a powerful position to be in. It's very strong mindset and sort of very strong physical attributes as well. So
yeah, so that's where you come in your brand. Like I said, so the reason I'm asking that, I was seeing if they got the answer right first, but they did. No, they did. No, because I think it's really, really important. It's like, look, for example, everything that we've spoke about today, it's like, right, that's the brand. This is two individuals. How do they come together to represent that actual kind of brand? What are the main pillars, which they've obviously discussed there? And because that there, in essence, creates the content strategy, the client base, the community, and in turn the culture. Right? If you have two people who are singing totally off the fucking different hymn sheets, then and calling themselves Team Alpha, it'd be like, no, you team confused, mate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just kind of coming in, but this is why, like, you've got to come in and really like align that, because everything becomes so easy after that. It's like, this is who we are, this is what we believe in, this is our values, this is what we're offering. That's the content associated, that's the community, that's the culture. If you try and jump in and go, right, bang, jumping into something like 2 steps down the line, you've not solidified the pipeline on that side. Like, I can't remember this analogy what I use. It's like you've got your vision, mission statement, and values, haven't you? I always say, like, your vision's at the top of the triangle, your mission is how you get there up the sides, and it's your core values which hold the triangle together. Because you've not got your core values, that's going to fall to shit. If you've not got a vision, you've got nothing to work towards. Yeah. So, for example, like, genuinely, yeah, we've built a lot of systematic stuff for these guys, but I'd say more than others, like sometimes with like a lot of the high performance companies, they've already got what I'm speaking about here, and that's the one thing for me is that I don't treat any client the same. Yeah, a lot of them might need similar type of framework, but it needs to be individual to them. Or, for example, really kind of coming in, sometimes doing things a little bit kind of unorthodox. Like, I remember first time I took Cam Mack on. You wouldn't even believe what we had to kind of do with his, like, apologising to his fucking audience because of VA work, and it blew his business up. But it's like, for me, I've been in that many different situations with companies now. It's like, I don't make the right decision all the time. Like, that's fucking, it's impossible to do that. But it's always an informed one in the right type of sense. And it's like, that's one thing for me, is that obviously we've built a really good kind of relationship with these two, and that's what I want from all my clients. Like, if I'm obviously working up to 200, 300, 400 clients kind of down the line, no matter how big the coach consultant gets, I'd still want to know every single kind of person within it, even if I'm not as directly time invested, because if I can see everything, and that's the thing for me now with our business, it's like, how can I double this company where I still have as much of an oversight?
So well, like, every time we've needed you, and I'm like, your calendar says that you're only available like next Wednesday, but can I talk to you this week? You're like, yeah, I'll speak to you tomorrow. So, like, you've always got availability for us. So
I think that's why we probably get on, because we're very, very similar. Like, in the way that we coach as well. Like, with our clients, we're invested in each individual's journey, no matter what it is, whether they're a lifestyle client or whether they're getting on stage. Like, we're invested in that journey.
Yeah, and you wear different hats when you need them. So, like, when you say you're being a
dick, like, you're effectively our mentor. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it sort of reciprocates, doesn't it? So
sometimes, that's the same way, and that's just managing people and human performance. One thing I've done a lot of research on that, like
wearing different hats.
Yeah, wearing different hats, but like basically, like,
that's me, innit? I'm a problem solver.
I literally spoke to Hannah and Cam about this one this morning, but like, it's so important. Like, say if you've got 100 clients, like, for example, on both of our sides, you can't approach every single one of those clients the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? You can a lot more if you do what I said about aligning content culture, because you're talking to the same type of person. So it's good for me now, because for example, I can talk about high performance company structure and strategies with high performance people, so I can talk about a lot of the same stuff. But how I actually portray that message and deliver that message is independent to the individual person, because if you don't do that, they're not going to reciprocate it in the right way and not going to apply it.
Yeah, and I think that was when you sort of projected our journey. It was a case of the order of things that needed to be done. We could see the bigger picture of what needed to be done, but it was a case of, this is green, 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 this is orange, and then it was like, okay, we can I was like, about 80% of it's red.
Like, we're quitting.
But no, it's like, it was so much easier to sort of manage for us and actually digest. You know what I mean? Rather than going, right, here you go, here's everything you need to fucking do.
Because I think before we had the vision, but we didn't have, like, the stairs
mapped out or anything
to
like
get
that.
there.
Yeah, and the next step is actually, and I say this loads, but these two, like Lauren said at the start, she'll try and do everything herself. Like I can put like this, because my main job basically within the coach consultant is building out the kind of company offer, building out the marketing framework, looking at one-to-one program design, looking at one-to-one training, then running company and team reports. That's basically my job now, because once that's done, I need a full team to come in and do it one-to-one with these. So that's why I've got so many staff now. But it's like, for example, it doesn't matter how good your vision is if you've not got the right team behind you.
Yeah.
So for example, exactly the same with you with your coaching. If you've got 80% of your client base, which isn't who you want to be working with, that's not going to leverage you towards want to working with your vision, right? If you work and focus on what these guys have done now, where they really highlight who they want to fucking work with, what they're actually kind of offering, then over time, with the right type of structure in place and consistency and retention, which these guys are absolutely sick at, by the way. But for example, when you kind of come in and do that, sales there stop meaning something, because if you take on, for example, 5 clients in a week, you've got $1,000 or 1,200 or 50 or whatever, and you've retained. So if you're coming in and averaging 4 sign-ups per week, that's £4,000 per month.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fucking money. Do you know what I mean? And but it doesn't sound a lot in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
I have a rule that we avoid signing up any more than 3 to 4 high performance businesses in a week, because if we doubled that, it'd be too much. And the onboarding wouldn't be right. So there were a period after the coach convention, then I stopped taking clients on. So like, for example, after the coach convention, which was one of the biggest, highest engagement times for me, I just said for 6 weeks I'm not taking a client on. Because it's not about money. Because I was like, if I take a client on now, I'm absolutely mentally exhausted. I can't do it.
That's what I was saying. Like last year, it wasn't the right time for us, because they wouldn't be getting the time that like they deserve. So I think now we're settled. When we are taking the clients on, like in the first sort of few weeks, it's like daily contact and be like, what's going on? How are you? How is this? So it's making sure that you are making them touch points with the client as well. And I think that's why our retention is so good. We've had clients for like 2-3 years.
Well, literally, there was a point last year when me and you sat there, and I was like, I lost a client for like, worked out, and we didn't lose a client for like 6-7 months last year. Like, we'd obviously taken more on, but we hadn't lost a single client for 6-7 months.
But I think it's because we actually asked. Because obviously we basically run 5-month like kind of contract. I don't fucking stick to contracts, right? But it's like, for example, I generally don't, but we have 5-month commitment periods, and then for example last week we had 4 out of 3 companies say that they want to still have ongoing support. And you got to remember, we're not charging £250 a month. But so for me, that's absolute mint. And I spoke to a few of my clients about it, because we did like, it started an internal referral thing, and they were like, we can see why you can retain so many clients. And the one person who actually didn't continue ongoing support, I actually writ in her handover that I wouldn't want to spend any more money right now, because she's there to do not right stuff. So
that's exactly. And do you know what? That's, as a coach, as a consultant, like, that's your job done. Do you know what I mean? And if a client can come to you and say, look, I've got everything that I needed from you at this precise moment in time, things are left on good terms, you know that they'll come back to you in the future. And I think that's some people don't have the ability to sort of put their pride to one side, and they're like, get up the arse about it, or won't reply, or they haven't got like relatability. They're not very like what's the word? They can't put themselves in somebody else's shoes, which I think that we're very, very good at, aren't we? Like, we're human beings at the end of the day, like understanding other
Prep
people.
Harley is not a human being though.
Why?
That's a robot.
But you have to be.
I'm
like a robot day to day. Stacey has to like get in front of my face to speak to me sometimes. I'm like, oh, sorry.
But I definitely agree with that. And I think, like you said, going back to the hats, having different hats for different clients, I think that's an important thing as well. Like, very much so.
It's not even just for different clients; it's for the same client sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm like, do you want answers as a friend or as a coach at this point?
Also building that journey, because the thing is, like, the clients have stayed on with you, like they stay on with us. Like, we have a minimum of 3 months sign up, and then after that, we're like, have you still got space for me? Can I carry on? That's like sort of the response that we want. And then with referrals as well, you've obviously started the referral scheme. We've now introduced that, because I'd say 60% of the clients that we get are referrals. And that's obviously very, very good. Like, we're very, very happy about that. And the fact is, like, we can now offer something to the people for doing that, because they were doing it anyway. But I think just it's just showing our appreciation to them for actually putting us forward, especially because I've got one lad who basically gets everyone from his workplace to come on with us, and they get fantastic results, and then that sort of goes from there, doesn't it?
Yep. Right, I'm going to wrap that one up there, because apparently last time these two did a podcast, they were here for 3 days. But no, for example, like just a little bit of taste of kind of what Team Alpha is meeting, like Lauren and Harley, and just basically all I'm going to say is in the next 3 months, it'll be ridiculous, because there's genuinely nothing that they're not doing right now, and there's not one level of confidence that they've not got, and that's the difference where it all kind of comes together. And they're obviously doing well now, but I'm talking... You'll just go stupid.
Yeah.
That's the aim. But yeah, thanks for having us.
Well done.